Christina Ann Thompson Harris, Christy to those who loved her, was 36 years old in September 2014. She was a devoted mother to two young children, one of them just 4 months old. She was careful about everything she ate and drank, because she was breastfeeding. She'd just been promoted to manager at the subway inside Ascension Genesis Hospital in Grand Blanc Township, the busiest subway in the entire county. Her co-workers described her as a mentor, a leader, a friend. Her family said she loved swimming, crafting, game nights. By all appearances, she had everything. A good job, 2 beautiful children, and a husband at home. But appearances can be dangerous. Full story. Before we talk about murder, before we talk about betrayal, you need to know the woman at the center of this story. Because if all we see is a victim, we miss the most important part, what was stolen. Christina Ann Thompson Harris, Christy, wasn't just another name in a police file. She was light. She was motion. She was one of those rare people who seemed to have more hours in her day than the rest of us. At 36 years old, she was in the thick of motherhood, the kind of busy where your hands are never empty. One arm cradling a newborn, the other flipping grilled cheese for her older child. Even when she was exhausted, she found a way to smile. She'd just been promoted to manager at the busiest subway in the county, inside Ascension Genesis Hospital. It was a job that demanded precision and patience, qualities Christina had in spades. Her co-workers saw her as a leader, a mentor, the kind of boss who wouldn't just tell you what to do, but would roll up her sleeves and do it alongside you. And then there was home. Swimming trips with her kids, craft nights, board games that lasted far too long because someone always wanted just one more round. To her family, she was the glue holding it all together. Christina was careful, meticulous even, about her health, not out of vanity, but out of love. She was breastfeeding her 4-month-old daughter and refused to put anything into her body that could harm her baby. No questionable medications. No risks. She was the kind of mother who read labels twice. She had every reason to feel safe. Davidson, Michigan, was a small city where front doors were left unlocked and the loudest noise at night was the wind moving through the trees. But here's the thing about small towns. Sometimes danger doesn't come from the outside. Sometimes it's sitting across from you at the dinner table. And Christina, she had no idea that the person she trusted most was already thinking about how to end her life. From the outside, Christina and Jason Harris looked like any other young couple in a small Midwestern town. To kids, a modest home, and the kind of life people build together, piece by piece. But appearances are fragile things. Behind their front door, tiny fractures had begun to spread through their marriage, cracks invisible to the neighbors, but sharp enough for Christina to feel. It started with distance. The little moments that make a marriage feel alive, a laugh across the table, a touch on the shoulder in passing, began to vanish. In their place came long silences. And secrets. Jason had them. Thousands of them. Investigators would later count nearly 6,000 text messages to another woman, not over years, but in the short time before Christina's death. 6,000. Enough to fill a novel. And this wasn't just flirting. These were emotional, intimate conversations. A second life. Christina discovered some of them before she died. Imagine what that felt like, holding a baby in your arms, looking at the man you built your life with, and realizing part of him is already gone, given to someone else. But Jason's betrayal went deeper than infidelity. It wasn't just that he had someone else. It was how quickly he moved to replace Christina once she was gone. 9 days after her death, 9 days, he booked a ticket to see that other woman. 2 months later, another moved into their home. And yet, in September 2014, Christina couldn't have known just how far those cracks had spread. She couldn't have guessed that for Jason, her death wasn't going to be a tragedy. It was going to be convenient. By the time Christina was starting her days with feedings and diaper changes, Jason Harris was starting his with something far darker. He wasn't just unhappy. He wasn't just cheating. He was planning. And planning is the most dangerous thing a killer can do, because it means the decision has already been made. All that's left is the method. Jason began to probe the people around him. Quietly, casually. Questions dropped like pebbles in conversation. What pills don't have a taste? What drugs are odorless? Co-workers thought it was strange. But strange didn't yet feel dangerous. Not until one admitted giving Jason Xanax, and Jason confessed he tried slipping them into Christina's drink. She'd tasted it and stopped drinking. He needed something she couldn't detect. But poison wasn't his only weapon of choice. In August 2014, just 1 month before Christina's death, Jason allegedly hired a man to kill her. The so-called hitman began surveillance until police arrested him for carrying a gun while on parole. Most people would see that as a sign to stop. Jason saw it as a delay. He tried again, offering $5,000 to different people, including a former co-worker. And when those offers went nowhere, he returned to his experiments, slipping things into her food, testing her reactions, adjusting his methods. To Christina, it was just another evening at home. To Jason, it was a laboratory. She wasn't a wife anymore. She was a problem to be solved, a project to be finished. Every smile he gave her, every "I love you" he muttered, was just camouflage. Because Jason Harris wasn't wondering if his wife would die. He was figuring out how. September 28, 2014. It's a Sunday evening in Davidson, Michigan, the kind of night where the air outside feels cool, the streetlights hum faintly, and most families are winding down for the week ahead. Inside the Harris home, Christina has spent the day with her mother. She's laughing, talking, tending to the baby. No sign of illness, no hint that anything is wrong. But Jason Harris already knows how this night will end. Later, when he tells police the story, he'll make it sound ordinary. He'll say Christina was feeling hungry, that he poured her a bowl of cereal, that she had trouble holding the spoon, so he helped her to bed. But something doesn't add up. Think about it, you're eating cereal, and suddenly your grip fails. Your body feels heavy. Your mind begins to fog. That's not a cold. That's not exhaustion. That's your body shutting down from something it never saw coming. At some point during that meal, Christina drops the bowl. Milk and cereal scatter across the floor. Jason doesn't call for help. He doesn't ask if she's okay. Instead, he walks her to bed. Not with concern, but with intent. The house is quiet now. Christina's breathing changes, and even shallow. If she could open her eyes, she might see the man she married. Watching, waiting. By morning, she's still. Her lips move slightly, but no words come out. She's coughing, unresponsive. This is the moment any normal husband would call 911. But Jason, he gathers the children, leaves the house, and goes to work. Hours later, he sends a text to a neighbor. "Can you check on Christina?" The neighbor finds the front door unlocked. Inside the bedroom, the air feels wrong, heavy. Christina lies on the bed, skin cold to the touch. She's gone. Two neighbors, one of them a nurse, try to rouse her. Nothing. They call 911, but it's too late. The life has already drained from the room. From the outside, it looks like tragedy, but in reality, it's the end of a plan that's been in motion for months. When first responders arrived, the scene looked, at least on the surface, like a heartbreaking but familiar story. A young mother, gone too soon. Jason Harris played his role perfectly, calm enough to sound composed, but with just enough sadness to pass for grief. He told them Christina had been sick the night before. Weak, tired, maybe something more. The medical examiner didn't ask too many questions. The toxicology report came back with a lethal dose of heroin. The official cause of death, accidental overdose. Case closed. And for most people, that might have been the end. But here's the thing, lies have weight. They strain against the truth until something cracks. And with Jason's story, the cracks came fast. Christina's mother had spent the entire day with her. She'd been fine, smiling, laughing, not sick, not weak. Her coworkers said the same. Christina was careful about everything she ate or drank because she was breastfeeding. She wouldn't even take cold medicine unless she checked the label twice. Heroin. It wasn't just out of character. It was impossible. The people who knew her best didn't just suspect the overdose ruling was wrong. They were certain of it. 2 days after Christina's death, her family marched into the Davidson Police Department. They told officers something wasn't right. They said the word investigate, and they meant it. And in that moment, Jason's neat little story began to unravel. Because the problem with building your alibi on a lie is that the truth doesn't stop knocking. The case might have died right there, buried under the words accidental overdose. But Christina's family wouldn't let it go. They knew her. They knew what she put in her body, what she didn't, and why. And somewhere in the back of their minds, they kept replaying one uncheckable truth. Christina was breastfeeding. One day, while investigators searched the Harris home, they found something ordinary, almost forgettable, in the freezer. Small, carefully labeled bags of frozen breast milk. Most people would have looked right past it. But a good investigator knows, sometimes the smallest details hide the loudest answers. If Christina had been using heroin, it wouldn't just show up in her blood. It would be in her breast milk, too. That milk was a time capsule, a record of her body chemistry on the days she pumped it. They sent it to the lab. Days later, the results came back. Negative. No heroin. No opioids. No illegal substances of any kind. It was the first time in Michigan history breast milk had been used as criminal evidence. And it hit the case like a lightning strike. This wasn't a woman who secretly used drugs. This wasn't a tragic accident. This was homicide. That frozen breast milk, meant to feed her baby, had just given Christina a voice. And with that voice, she said loud and clear, "Jason Harris put that heroin in me." Once the breast milk told its story, investigators stopped looking at Christina's death as a tragedy and started treating it as a murder. And when they pulled at the first thread, the whole thing began to unravel. They went back through Jason's life, his phone records, his text messages, his casual offhand conversations with friends. What they found wasn't grief. It was planning. Witnesses came forward. One after another, they told the same unsettling stories. Jason asking about drugs with no taste or smell. Jason admitting he tried to slip Christina pills before. Jason offering thousands of dollars to have her killed. Then came the messages. Nearly 6,000 texts to another woman in the months before Christina's death, filled with intimacy, lust, and plans for a future together. That other woman wasn't just a fling. She was motivation. She was the life Jason wanted, waiting for him on the other side of his wife's grave. Prosecutors also found the timing suspicious. Christina died just months after Jason took out a life insurance policy worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Motive, opportunity, method, witnesses, digital evidence. Piece by piece, the case began to form, not like a puzzle with missing parts, but like a trap snapping shut. Jason might have thought he'd planned the perfect murder, but what he'd really done was leave a trail so clear a jury could follow it without ever looking up from their notes. By the time Jason Harris walked into the Genesee County courtroom, the air was already heavy with expectation. The gallery was packed, family, friends, reporters, strangers who had followed the story for years. Everyone wanted to see the man accused of poisoning his wife. Everyone wanted to see if he'd show any sign of guilt. Jason didn't. He walked in with the same flat expression he'd worn since the day Christina died. No tears, no visible anger. Just nothing. The prosecution went first, methodically stacking the evidence like bricks in a wall. The frozen breast milk, the scientific proof Christina didn't use heroin. Witnesses who said Jason tried to hire them to kill her. Co-workers who heard him ask about tasteless, odorless drugs. Thousands of messages to his lover, painting a future without Christina. The life insurance policy taken out just months before her death. Piece by piece, the picture became undeniable. Christina's death wasn't an accident. It was a plan. Then the defense tried to poke holes. They argued the overdose ruling was correct. They implied Christina could have used drugs without anyone knowing. They tried to suggest reasonable doubt. But every time they spoke, the prosecution countered with something sharper, a text, a timeline, a witness statement that lined up too perfectly to be coincidence. At one point, Christina's family sat just a few feet from Jason, watching him as the state laid out, in clinical detail, how he had ended her life. He didn't look at them. Not once. After days of testimony, the jury filed out to deliberate. Hours later, they came back. The foreman stood. The judge asked for the verdict. Guilty of first-degree murder. Guilty of solicitation of murder. Guilty of delivering a controlled substance causing death. Jason Harris was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He had spent years planning Christina's death. Now, he would spend the rest of his life behind bars, with nothing but time to remember her face. When the courtroom emptied and the news cameras packed up, the Harris case became another closed file in the county's archives. But for Christina's family, it was never over. 2 children would grow up without their mother's laugh, her hugs, her voice telling them bedtime stories. They would know her not through memories, but through photographs and the stories their family would fight to keep alive. Christina's mother would replay that last day they spent together, every smile, every word, holding it like a fragile glass ornament, terrified it might slip away. Her friends would remember her as the woman who never stopped giving, the mom who double-checked every label before breastfeeding, the friend who made everyone feel welcome, the daughter who called just to say I love you. For law enforcement, this case became something else entirely, a precedent. It was the first time in Michigan history that breast milk was used as criminal evidence. It proved that even in cases where the truth seems buried, science can dig it back up. And for the rest of us, it's a reminder that monsters don't always hide in the dark. Sometimes they stand in the kitchen, pouring cereal. Sometimes they tuck you into bed. Sometimes they say I love you while planning your death. Jason Harris is serving life in prison. He'll never walk free again. But the real sentence, the one that matters, is the one Christina's family serves every single day, life without her. Christina's story proves that even the smallest clue can expose the darkest truth. If you want more cases like this, hit subscribe, like, comment, and share, so you never miss the next twist.